We recovered last year $2.5 million from North Carolina's workers. The people in North Carolina are the best skilled, hardest working workers, I think, in the entire country, and they deserve to be paid every penny that they've earned. And unfortunately, you've got some dishonest and unscrupulous bad apples out there who don't oftentimes pay. Either, you're leaving and they withhold your final paycheck, or they deduct things from that paycheck that they shouldn't have. And when they do that, most of the times a worker, somebody, an auto body mechanic, somebody in a factory, they can't go out and hire a lawyer and sue their employer over $100 that was improperly
Verify
deducted.
is. And you just said, basically, in this role as commissioner, you don't have a role to go in and spot check. Um,
Yeah.
is that something that you would consider lobbying for? So if you begin by telling us just what e-verify is, most of us know, some of us don't.
Yeah, so let's start with E-Verify. So E-Verify comes from a federal law that establishes a database that allows you to check the employment eligibility of somebody who's applying to come work for your business. And so when the law was first passed, it applied to the federal government and federal contractors. The federal government and federal contractors, when they're hiring people, had to run the names of prospective employees through this database to determine whether they were in this country legally and eligible to work in this country. Then, a little over 10 years ago, the North Carolina legislature, along with a lot of other states, passed a state e-verify law, which said that private employers in North Carolina must e-verify people applying for jobs with them. And so it basically takes this federal database and requires private employers in North Carolina to use this database to check the employment eligibility of their employees.
Without oversight, without state oversight. So it's a state law. To understand this correctly, a state law with no oversight. Is that right?
Um,
In other
I
words,
wouldn't say, yeah. So there is oversight. The oversight is the Department of Labor, but what we don't have is the ability to do, say, random compliance inspections.
okay.
There's oversight. If there's a citizen who has reasonable evidence that an employer is not using the e-verify system the way they're required to by law, they can bring us that complaint and we will investigate it. What we don't have the right to do under the law as it exists now is to say, listen, we're going to do a random sampling of
Right.
500 employers in this state, and we're going to check to see that they have used e-verify. We don't have the right under the law to do that, but it would be helpful if we did, because I can tell you most citizens, just by comparison, the number of wage and hour complaints far eclipses the number of e-verify complaints we get. Our hands are kind of tied right now. We work with what the public gives us, and a lot of times it's hard to have the information you need to make a complaint. I mean, the kind of information that allows us to investigate a complaint, most people don't even have access to the kind of information you would need to meet the standard to get us to make the complaint, to investigate the complaint in the first place.
So, okay. And so let's just play this out. Let's say that you work at a chicken processing plant and a couple of workers here, another worker talk about, I don't know, sending money back to their relatives in another country. And they have reason to believe that this company has hired someone here on a legal status. That sort of information isn't granular enough, isn't specific enough for what you need. You would almost need someone that worked in the HR department to have access to that level of data. Am I warming up?
You're in the ballpark, yeah. So, and the thing that we're actually looking at is whether you're using the e-verify system. So it's closely tied to this issue of whether people are working here illegally. But even if a company has a total domestic workforce entirely made up of U.S. citizens, they must e-verify all of those people too. Because the system doesn't work if you kind of pick and choose who you're going to e-verify.
Oh, yeah.
So you can imagine even a situation where there's an employer with a totally domestic workforce, everybody's a U.S. citizen, and if they did not e-verify those people, they would be in violation of our e-verify law as well. And so because we're dealing with a state law, it's not federal immigration law. What we can do is we can require people to use E-Verify.
Okay. All right. And so that's the tail end of my question. Would you consider um, lobbying the General Assembly? We've seen, the State Auditor Dave Bolak has done quite a bit of lobbying to, I don't want to say gain more power, but gain more oversight and more transparency and have the ability to make systems run better. Right. And so
So
would you do that, something like
yeah,
that?
so if there's one tweak I think we need to make to our E-Verify law to make it more effective, it is to end the status as a complaint-based system, meaning that we are waiting for people to bring things to us and give us the opportunity to be proactive as part of compliance inspections. Right? I'm telling you,
Yeah.
we get. Uh, I bet we get maybe 3 or 4 at most complaints a year that we can investigate. People just don't have the information and they're not bringing it to us. And I get why they're not, because who is going to be privy to the information that the employer is not using
That's
E-Verify
great.
the way they're supposed to,
Yeah.
right? There's
Yeah.
only a handful of people who know that type of thing. So being totally complaint based is just kind of it's an ineffective way to do it.
One, but something, a lot of North Carolinians have been belly aching about and really frustrated with, and I'm sure you probably heard this as well, is this trend where companies are laying off American workers. They're qualified, they're local, they're part of the fabric of the community, and they turn around and they hire HB1 visa labor at a fraction of the cost, especially in fields like IT, healthcare tech, education, logistics. And it's hard to justify that when we've got excellent workers here in North Carolina. Now, I know your office does not control immigration. We've gotten into that. But you do have a platform to protect the workforce. So, my question to you is this: would you lobby the legislature to restrict state job training funds and grants from going to companies who have a pattern and practice of actively displacing our workers, and giving benefits to foreign workers? I mean, why should they get our tax dollars when you've got another
I
company?
can easily advocate for that. Um, this is the first time I've heard about this particular issue of grants going to companies to reskill or retrain people who are being brought in on visas and displacing American workers. Um, I cannot believe that we would ever use North Carolina tax dollars or American taxpayer dollars to basically force the American worker to subsidize and underwrite their own displacement.
That's right.
That sounds nuts. Now, I'm not aware it's happening, right? I'm not aware that those grants exist. We don't administer those grants. So I haven't heard about that
You've
specifically.
got
But if
federal.
it's happening,
Yeah.
we should not be using North Carolina taxpayers' dollars to bring in and train somebody besides North Carolinians.
Well, there are federal dollars that go for that, and as you know, through appropriations, those monies do get to certain sectors, et cetera. And so there's a way. I know that in education funds, those have been restricted and earmarked because once they're earmarked for something, um, you know, typically, then the horse is off to the race, and there's no way to control for quality. Now it's getting better in this state through auditing, through maybe an initiative like this, through other education things. But I do know there's a lot of federal grants also for
Sure.
workforce
I mean,
training.
I think it should be as simple as saying a condition of the grant is that it is used, since it's being paid for by the American taxpayer, it is used to sort of reskill or retrain the American worker.
Yeah. Logistics, and it's hard to justify that when we've got excellent workers here in North Carolina. Now, I know your office does not control immigration. We've gotten into that. But you do have a platform to protect the workforce. So, my question to you is this: would you lobby the legislature to restrict state job training funds and grants from going to companies who have a pattern and practice of actively displacing our workers, and giving benefits to foreign workers? I mean, why should they get our tax dollars when you've got another
I
company?
can easily advocate for that. Um, This is the first time I've heard about this particular issue of grants going to companies to reskill or retrain people who are being brought in on visas and displacing American workers. Um, I cannot believe that we would ever use North Carolina tax dollars or American taxpayer dollars to basically force the American worker to subsidize and underwrite their own displacement.
That's right.
That sounds nuts. Now, I'm not aware it's happening, right? I'm not aware that uh, those grants exist. We don't administer those grants. So I haven't heard about that
You've
specifically.
got
But if
federal.
it's happening,
Yeah.
we should not be using North Carolina taxpayers' dollars to bring in and train somebody besides North Carolinians.
Well, there are federal dollars that go for that, and as you know, through appropriations, those monies do get to certain sectors, et cetera. And so there's a way. I know that in education funds, those have been restricted and earmarked because once they're earmarked for something, you know, typically, then the horse is off to the race, and there's no way to control for quality. Now it's getting better in this state through auditing, through maybe an initiative like this, through other education things. But I do know there's a lot of federal grants also for
Sure.
workforce
I mean,
training.
I think it should be as simple as saying a condition of the grant is that it is used, since it's being paid for by the American taxpayer, it is used to sort of reskill or retrain the American worker.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that this America First policy resonates with Republican, Democrat, Independent, non-political people. I mean, it's just what's great for the worker and bringing back, honor and quality to the worker through honoring trades, which is something that your department has done some of. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing to make trade skills and that line of work honorable again.
Well, I might disagree with you. It doesn't need to be honorable again. That work has
Mm.
always been honorable. That is the work that literally built this country and will continue to build this country. Um, but the number one thing we're doing is, I mean, the data I see, the articles we read, we try to keep our pulse on sort of where the workforce and where the labor market is going. And right now, with the growth of AI, if you want
Oh,
to go get a 4-year college degree in some sort of a white collar profession and you want to sit behind a desk, I'm not sure the job you're going to school for now is going to be there in 4 years when you're done. But if you want a job that's going to have that you can make a career out of, that I think will be around at least 25 years, any of the skilled crafts and trades. I mean, my plumber leaves $900 richer every time he comes to my house.
yeah,
My kids, like drop a
I
card
know.
down the toilet and fish it out. I mean, my plumber is doing fine. Same thing with my HVAC technician, electricians.
Mhm.
Those are all jobs that are AI resistant. And so I am out there every chance I get telling young people, as you're planning for your future, you need to think about what kind of job can I have not only now, but for the next 25 or 30 years. And these white collar desk jobs, they're in danger of going away a lot quicker than skilled crafts and trades.
Right. I mean, it begins with education because the folks that aren't honoring these trades obviously are the public school systems that train all of our young ones that hey, you have to go to a 4-year degree and it doesn't matter if you take Sanskrit or basket weaving as your major. That's what you just have to do. You have to check that off when in fact, right, your hairdresser, my hairdresser gets $250 richer every time I go to her. So I know these people are making bank and it's you and
So you
me,
got to start going to Great Clips. Then you can get out of there for like 20 bucks.
Luke.
Look what Great Clips can do for you.
Oh, I'm a lady. I'm not going to go to Great Clips, but I wish I could.
You're
That's
missing out.
that's where the boys go in my family. That's where the boys go. But I know. So it's you people like you and I that are going to have to look for trade jobs. Hey, listen, they're hiring for ICE, and I mean they've
That is
got
true.
these irresistible ads that they have on Twitter. I'm about that far from becoming an ICE agent.
Well,
I'm
if this
telling you.
doesn't work out for me in 4 years, maybe I'll go become an ICE agent.
That's right. There's always going to be work for us. Handcuffs, carry handcuffs, guns, get bad guys off the street. I don't know. Well, thank you so much for taking your time tonight to talk to us and to put some questions to rest. And I'm excited to see how much more money you're going to recover next year.
I will tell you, I haven't been in public service that long, but it is the most gratifying thing I have had the chance to be a part of. When you think about hardworking people, maybe a single mom, whatever it might be, getting stiffed by some employer and thinking that, hey, this is just one person. They're the little guy. I can walk, keep $100. Nobody's going to be able to do anything about it. And then the Department of Labor gets to come in and say that money was earned, and now you owe it. Uh,
Good.
that just chance to stand up for the hardworking people in North Carolina, most gratifying thing I've had the chance to do.
You can stand up for people at scale. It's definitely an honorable profession what you're doing, and thank you for doing it. So hopefully you'll come on again with us, maybe during the midterms, and put some issues forth that we can ask other candidates about labor and what they're going to do to make your job better if elected.
I look forward to it. Good catching up with you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
See you.